So good evening. We are going to be starting. We're going to be studying today one of my favorite things, Megillat Esther. And I mentioned previously that Le'atid Lavo, Harambam writes, Le'atid Lavo, the various prophetic writings will go down in their importance because the events described in those writings would have already taken place, and as a result, it would no longer be as significant as they are today. But the one exception is Megillat Esther. So the Megillat Esther is like the 5 books of Moses, and like the Torah Shebe'al Peh that we received from Moshe Rabbeinu, those things being eternal, unchanging, immutable. So also Megillat Esther is eternal, it's unchanging, it's immutable, and there's a reason for that. The reason the Megillat Esther is eternal is because it deals with Amalek. Now, if you look at Parashat Beshalach, it says, Milchama Adonai ba'Amalek midor dor. The war that we have against the Amalekites is from one generation to another generation. Now, it's one of the 613 mitzvot. And Harambam writes that he has like a list of conditions for something to be considered a mitzvah. One of the most important aspects of any one of the 613 mitzvot is that it has to be eternal. None of the mitzvot would ever be annulled, would ever be canceled. So, for example, also in Yemot HaMashiach, we would have to put on tefillin. Also, post Yemot HaMashiach, we would have to put on tefillin. There would never be an age where Am Yisrael would say, we don't have to put on tefillin anymore. No, every one of the 613 mitzvot, Shabbat, Kashrut, Korbanot, everything is eternal. And so also the mitzvah of Amalek is eternal. And that's why the Pasuk explicitly says, Milchama Adonai ba'Amalek midor dor. The Milchama, the war against Amalek, is always there because, Shalom Aleichem, because the war against Amalek, there will always be the possibility of a new nation or new people or a new generation of people that don't like the Jewish people. It's just the nature of human existence. The nature of human existence is such that there are people who want to accept the yoke of God, who want to accept the laws of God, and there's always going to be snakes. There's always going to be snakes who want people not to accept the yoke of God, but who want people to accept their own yoke. Politicians, elite, the high-tech companies, etc., etc. It's not enough to be submissive to Big Brother, as George Orwell said. Somebody just told me today. But you have to love Big Brother, right? So you're always going to have that. That's just part of the nature of human existence. So there will always be Amalek. And that's why Megillat Esther is eternal, because Megillat Esther discusses this fight against Amalek. So let's open up the book again to page 1254. I'm going to have some water. Thank you. Amen. We're reading the first pasuk of Perek Gimel. Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh. After the aforementioned incidents, we're now about to read about the ascendancy of Haman to power. How Haman became powerful. He becomes the viceroy of the Persian Empire. And it says, Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh gidal hamelech Ahashverosh et Haman ben Hamerata. Haman becomes the most powerful person in the empire, second only to Ahashverosh himself. And it's important that it's Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh. Why do we have to say Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh? If I'm writing a story, in chapter 1 happens before chapter 2, and chapter 2 happens before chapter 3. This is chapter 3. Why do I have to say now Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh? Why is that important? It is important. And it is because God is a master chess player, which is to say that God already had all the pieces on the puzzle through which the redemption of the Jewish people would take place, right? It's only after all the pieces are on the puzzle, namely Vashti is killed. Esther HaMalka becomes the queen. Mordechai is now Bishar HaMelech. He himself is a person of significance in the political world of the Persian Empire. Only after all the pieces of the puzzle are in place does Hashem put Haman in power. Meaning Hashem is not going to have a situation where Bar Minan, Has v'Shalom, somebody like Haman HaRasha is going to be in power where the ingredients for the redemption of the Jewish people are not already there ahead of time. So you see why Ahar hadevarim ha'eleh is so important. That's part of the chess game that Hashem plays you heard my derasha de Shabbat, where I was talking about how the elite, they think they're the puppet masters, but above the puppet master is the ultimate puppet master, and that is, of course, Melech Melchei Melechim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's what's happening here. Gidal HaMelech Ahashverosh et Haman ben Amedata. King Ahashverosh decides to promote Haman. And the question is, why now? What happened that put in Ahashverosh's mind, let me promote Haman, let me make him a viceroy? And this is going to tell you something about the psychology of the pagan mind, of the Gentile mind, how they view things in a very myopic fashion, very short-sighted. Everything is for the now. What can give me power now? What can satiate my greed at this very moment, without thinking just a little more deeply about things. So let me tell you what happened. Why is it that Ahashverosh promotes Haman at this point? What happened right before? Does anybody know the story directly before? What took place? Who knows? There was an assassination attempt against Ahashverosh.
Nothing was given to Mordechai.
Yes. Bigtan Materesh, they want to assassinate Ahashverosh. Bigtan Materesh, they spoke this strange language that nobody understood. And they were talking amongst themselves about how they want to assassinate Ahashverosh. They were angry about something. And by the way, assassinations against Persian emperors was very common. This was like a very big thing. They were always looking how to, somebody was always angry at somebody else. Somebody always wanted to kill somebody else. So there was always this intrigue, this melodramatic intrigue in the Persian Empire. So Bigtan Materesh wanted to kill Ahashverosh, and they spoke this language that nobody understood. But the Hachamim of Am Yisrael, the ones in the Sanhedrin, there was different qualifications to be on the Sanhedrin. They had to be not just men of Torah, of course. I mean, Torah is the foundation, but they also had to be men of great wisdom. So there would be people in the Sanhedrin who knew astronomy, people in the Sanhedrin who knew sciences, people in the Sanhedrin who knew mathematics. There was people in the Sanhedrin who knew how to speak many languages. That was a big thing. So to be a speaker of many languages increases your wisdom, increases your ability to see things from different perspectives and different cultures, and therefore that's great for the Sanhedrin. Mordechai himself was from the Sanhedrin of the Jewish people, and he spoke the language of Bigtan Materesh. So he understood what they're talking. They thought nobody speaks their language. You ever speak Hebrew in public, and then you suddenly realize it's an Israeli there. He understands what you're saying, right? I'm talking about in America. But here, nobody knew the language of Bigtan Materesh. But Mordechai understood, and he revealed to Esther HaMalkah that they want to kill the king. And Esther HaMalkah revealed to Ahashverosh that they want to kill him. And Ahashverosh was, immediately executed them. Now Ahashverosh starts thinking about this thing, and he says, let me see. How did I find out that they want to kill me? Esther told me. Why was Esther queen? So she was queen because I killed Vashti. Why did I kill Vashti? Well, somebody suggested to me that I kill her, right? Who was the person that suggested to Ahashverosh that Vashti be killed? Haman. So now, that's another thing. Haman was promoted because Ahashverosh says, this guy is good luck for me. Right? They think in terms of luck. Everything is luck. Nothing is right. So this guy is good luck for me. I'm going to promote him, and I'm going to make him the viceroy of the kingdom. So Ahad HaDevarim Ha'ele, Gidal HaMelech Ahashverosh, Et Haman ben Amirata HaAgagi, and here we identify him as Agagi. Just so you know, Agag was the king who in the days of Shaul, King Shaul goes to a war. You're going to see why this is important. This is very important. Shaul goes to a war, and the war is to destroy the Amalekim. And this Haman is a descendant of Agag. Haman Agag. So this guy is an anti-Semite, and it's in his very essence. And this anti-Semite becomes powerful. I think I explained this a few Shabbatot ago, that usually you have around the table, you have the king who sits on a throne. And then all the other ministers, they sit on their own chairs, and the chairs of the other ministers are equal, except that depending on where you're seated around the table, if you're closer to the right of the king, then you're at a higher rank. But the chairs are all the same, except for the king. Here he did something unusual. Vayasem et kis'o me'al kol hasarim asher ito. He gives him a different chair. So he was tremendously powerful. This Haman now becomes the right hand of Ahasuerus, the confidant of Ahasuerus. And what happens? How does the story continue? So now Haman is walking in public. Everybody knows that he is like the king. All of the government ministers, all of the people working for Ahasuerus or within the government of Ahasuerus, all of them, Kore'im u'mishtachavim leHaman. They all bow down before Haman. Now, you ever see the Queen of England? So I think there's a custom that if you see the Queen of England, you have to curtsy, right? That's Kore'im. Kore'im means literally to curtsy. Who knows what mishtachavim means? What does ishtachavaya mean? Does anybody know? Ishtachavot. To bow down. But what's the difference between Keri'ah and ishtachavaya? There's a difference. Keri'ah means like a curtsy, like, something that we're used to. Ishtachavaya literally means what we do on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, when we say, V'chol ha'am, keshe'ayu shom'im et Shema meforash yosim mipi kohen gadol, right? So they would literally, so to prostrate means literally on the ground, on your stomach, your arms in front of your head, literally lying down on the ground. This was a sign. Hishtachavaya was almost a type of a worship. So, but why did they do this? So the curtsying they would have done on their own. They didn't need anybody to tell them that was a proper derech eretz. If you see a government minister who is higher than you, a higher rank than you, then today in America you do a salute, let's say. Back then, but I think the salute goes two ways, so maybe that's a bad example. But back then, the lower person, the person on the lower rung of the ladder, would bow down before the person on the higher rung of the ladder. But the Ishtahavaya was something special. Kichen sivalo hamelech. The Melech gave Haman special permission. Obviously, Haman had a tremendous ego, and he asked for the king that people be commanded not just to curtsy for him, but to completely lishtahavayo. So can you imagine this guy is walking through the streets, through the Shah, through the government. The Shah HaMelech means the entrance to the official government premises of Persia. So he's walking through, and everybody who sees him has to literally fall on the floor in front of him as if although he's some god, and literally worshiping him. So what happens? There was a person there called Mordechai, and the pasuk says, "U'Mordechai lo yichlav velo yishtachaveh." He refused not only to do ishtachavaya, he refused to do keri'ah. Okay, a few things. Why wouldn't he? Why not? So the Chachamim say something nice, and I actually take it literally. They say, and you have to know this: the Amalekites and the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, and Haman, they were very superstitious. They're very, they believe very strongly in occult, magical practices. The Nazis had these weird rituals where they would try to get the powers of certain spirits and gods, and they thought it would help them in their wars. I'm actually reading a book about that now because it does fascinate me. The connection between anti-Semitism, madness on the one hand, and the belief in the occult on the other hand is fascinating to me. So Haman used to have avodah zarah in his pocket, in his clothing. And Mordechai knew about this avodah zarah, and I take this literally for that reason. For the reason that I just told you, that Haman was part of this, but they have neo-Nazis now. I know, for example, I saw a video of neo-Nazis in Ukraine, actually, and they're a small percentage of the population, so do not take this as political commentary, because I really, that's not at all the purpose. But I saw a recent video of neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They want to turn the country into a white country, and they're making this weird ritual with fires and all these like weird things. I don't know what it means exactly. So they still have that. They still have that, obsession with the occult. So Haman had the avodah zarah in him, and he went to Ahasuerus, and he had everybody bow down before him as if although he is some god. Why did he do it? He did it because he had the avodah. Shalom aleichem. He did it because he had the avodah zarah in his pocket. But here's the thing: Persia, this empire, they believed in Zoroastrianism. In Zoroastrianism, they consider themselves to be a monotheistic religion, okay? Where they only pray to a single God. That's why they call themselves monotheistic. That's why they call monotheism. You believe in one God. The name of the God was, does anybody here have a Mazda? A car? You know the Mazda?
Yeah.
Okay, so the name of the God was Ahura Mazda. So I don't know whether it's any connection between Mazda. Probably not, okay. So Ahura Mazda. That was the name of their God. I'm probably mispronouncing it. It doesn't matter. They had a prophet called Zoroaster, and this was the official state religion. They were actually against Avodah Zarah. But even though they were against Avodah Zarah, they allowed people freedom of religion. So there was freedom of religion in the Persian Empire. And in the party, it says Lasot Kirson Ishvaish when they had that big party, but everybody could do whatever they want. Whatever your custom is, whatever your minhag is, the Hachamim tell us that the Jews in the party, they were able to eat kosher food. There was no problem with kosher food. If you wanted kosher food, you wanted kosher wine, whatever you wanted, no problem, we'll do it for you. So the Persian Empire has this attitude, everybody's going to be free to practice their religion, and now you know why. And I think this is the omek. Now I'm going to tell you how I interpret the story. Haman, he believes in magic, in the occult. He wants people bowing down before his God. So he puts his God in his pocket or under his shirt, wherever it was hidden, right? Now people are bowing down to it. Why couldn't he do it publicly? Because as I said, the official state policy in Persia was to allow freedom of religion. Now if you're allowing freedom of religion, why are you making all these people bow down before you? So no, it's for me. Now you understand the pasuk, Yechen sivalo hamelech. They were told to bow down before him. But Haman was a sneak, and he believed in the occult. Said, they're all going to worship my God now, and my God is now going to have this power because they're all worshiping. So they are worshiping Haman. Haman is getting his magical stuff all set up, and he's excited. But he can't let Ahasuerus know about this because it would be a violation of Persian policy, and that's the problem. Because Mordechai knew what was happening. Mordechai knew Haman well. He understood the guy was into this supernatural mysticism. He understood that. And he knew that Haman was hiding this thing in him. And now you're going to understand what's happening in the story. Because you're going to read the story and you're going to see that this guy, Haman, hates Mordechai. So kill him. He's violating the law of the king. Kill him. Why not? So now you know why not. Because he cannot go to the king and say, hey, he's not bowing down to me. Because if he goes to the king and he says he's now bowing down to me, what's Mordechai going to say? Yo, buddy, open up your shirt. What do you have in there? I'm not bowing down to you because you have the Avodah Zarah there. You're making everybody bow down before Avodah Zarah. This is against the policy, the Persian Empire. Lasot Girson Ish Va'ish. So you're a sneak. I'm not the one violating the law. You're violating the law. So now you know why Haman never goes to Ahasuerus and says, yo, Ahasuerus, he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Because he knows that if he tells Ahasuerus, Mordechai is going to spill the beans on him and tell Ahasuerus, he's doing Avodah Zarah. You're Zoroastrian. You don't believe in this thing. So that's what's happening. By the way, as long as we're talking about these weird beliefs and all, you know that the swastika of the Nazis, right? It comes from some Sanskrit symbol for good luck. They didn't invent the swastika. It comes from the Hindu religions, and they have the image of the swastika, and they were obsessed with the occult beliefs of the Eastern religions. The Nazis were, right? And again, that takes us back to that famous movie, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. It wasn't just like a dumb idea. Meaning Steven Spielberg had in his mind knowledge of the Nazi occult practices, and it made a lot of sense that they would look for the Holy Ark because they would believe that if they possessed the Ark, they would have these special powers. So it was very well thought out plot, meaning the plot in the movie was very well thought out. So I wanted to point that out. So now let's continue the Pesukim. So we read, I'm just finding the Pesukim here. Mordechai knew what's happening here. He refused to bow down. And now the other ministers, they see that everybody is bowing down before Haman, and Mordechai is not bowing down. So they all go over to Mordechai and they say, Madua ata over et misvat hamelech. Why are you violating the instructions of the king? The king instructed us to bow down. What's Mordechai's answer? Look at the Pesukim. Does he answer them? Why not? Because again, once you shoot the gun, you can only get to shoot it once. He's not going to tell him what's happening. He's going to play this. He's going to string Haman along. If he tells them, oh, that's because he has Avodah Zarah, you don't believe in Avodah Zarah, you have your religion. If he tells them that, then say, oh, we didn't know. We didn't know that. Oh, we're supposed to put down before him, not before the Avodah Zarah. So he doesn't answer. If you look at the pasuk, what does Mordechai say? He doesn't answer. They tell him every single day, bow down before, not answering. He refused to accept their instructions because he knows the dirty little secret of Haman. He knows it. And finally they cannot take it anymore. They wanted to see if Mordechai would be able to survive this disrespect of Haman. And they go over to Haman and they tell Haman, the one thing Mordechai tells him is, I am a Jew, I am not bowing down before Haman. That's it. So this is now coming to Haman. Haman finds out about it, and let's see what Haman does with this information. So Haman hears it. Haman notices that Mordechai is neither curtsying before him, or prostrating himself before him. Vayimale Haman chema. Literally, Haman becomes triggered. It's one thing to hear it, but when he saw Mordechai doing this, he went crazy. My father writes in one of his books, which is not published, but Be'ezrat Hashem will be published soon. I think I mentioned to you that we're republishing his work, and then we're going to be publishing some of the books that were never published. There was many writings, so there's an entire book that we're working on now. And this took place, I think, probably about 50 years ago, maybe 55 years ago. I think it was actually, it was before I was born, so it was close to 60 years ago. So it was in Barcelona, and my parents were in Barcelona because my father was getting a PhD in Semitic philology, and back then the University of Barcelona had one of the best departments in the world for Semitic philology, so he got his PhD there. So anyway, so they lived in Barcelona, and they were going for a walk one Sunday morning. It was a very quiet Sunday morning, and they had beautiful parks there. I don't know what Barcelona is like now today, I have no idea. But apparently back then it was very beautiful and tranquil. So they were walking in the park in Barcelona, and as they were walking, they saw a procession of people coming from the church. So as it turned out, they didn't really understand what was happening. They just saw a procession of people from the church. But as the people got closer, in the middle of the procession, it was like a parade, but in the middle of it, there was a image of the non-Virgin Mary. And apparently they were consecrating this image, and they were going to, after the consecration ceremony, which was done in public, they were going to return it to the church so they can, bow down before it or whatever they do with the non-virgin. So what happened is that as they came to the park, people were waiting there. And everybody, when they saw the they all literally bowed down on the floor. There was music, and there was a big thing, and there was a prayer. Everybody bowed down on the floor. And because it was an image, it was a statue of the Virgin Mary. Mamash, Avodah Zarah, glat, Avodah Zarah, no question. It was 100% Avodah Zarah. So my parents obviously didn't bow down, but they tell me that they had to stand there, and everybody was looking at them like this, like, why are you not bowing? Like, what are you doing? They're not going to bow down. It's Avodah Zarah. So they didn't bow down. But anyway, so that's kind of what's happening here. Everybody is bowing down before Haman, and this one Jew refuses to do it, and when Haman sees it, he gets completely triggered, right? So what happens is, "Vayivez be'einav lishloach yad beMordechai levado ki higidu lo et am Mordechai." And he said, what nation is he from? They told him. Am literally means the ethnicity. Where is he from, ethnically? And they told him. And when he heard that, when he heard the Am, he said, it's not enough. It's not enough for me to kill Mordechai. I have to kill all his people. I want to explain that. Why? What's the big deal? Why? I understand he's angry. I understand he's triggered. He hates the guy. But he's the only one not bowing down before him. The other people were bowing down. So he was alone. Why does he want now to do something more? He said, no, I can't just kill Mordechai. I want to do more. And it says, they told him the ethnicity of Mordechai. Can you fill it up for me, please? Thank you. Thanks. So, Mordechai is described as Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira, Ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Kish, Ish Yemini. I'm sorry, Ish Yemini. What does Ish Yemini mean? Ish Yemini means B'Shev Binyamin. Now, Ish Yehudi, because all the people who came to the Babylonian Empire, they were from the kingdom of Yehuda. So all the Jews were called Jews, Yehudim, Ish Yehudi, not necessarily because they were Mishevet Yehuda. Not all of them were Mishevet Yehuda. I, for example, am Mishevet Levi, and Kohen is Mishevet Levi. There were also some of those who were Mishevet Binyamin. And he was Mishevet Binyamin, but he was called Ish Yehudi because he's from the kingdom of Judah. So Ish Yehudi Haya Beshushan Habira. Ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimei ben Kish Ish Yemini. So he is from Shevet Binyamin. Am Mordechai. Mordechai is from the tribe of Binyamin. He must have found out. He says, Am Mordechai. Now he knows history. And he knows that the first king of the Jewish people was Shaul. And Shaul himself was from Shevet Binyamin. And he also knows that one of the first things Shaul was instructed to do when he became king was to make a war against Amaleki with his ancestor Agag as the prime target of the war. Now, this person, Mordechai, whose ancestor, Shaul, killed his ancestor Agag and wanted to kill all the Amalekim, he says, I'm not going to just let this person get killed. This is an epic battle. It's not just between me, Haman, and Mordechai as an individual. This is Amalek against the Jewish people. I'm going to kill all of them. I'm going to kill every single Jew. I'm going to kill every single Jew in the kingdom because they're all part of the nation of Mordechai, right? So this is what he wants to do. This is his plan. It's his master plan. He wants to continue the work of the original Amalekites. The original Amalekites in the desert, they came out of nowhere. They wanted to kill the Jewish people. Obviously, they failed. Later on, the Jews decided to do a battle against Amalek because, and this is important just so you understand the philosophy. We don't go to war against everybody. We're not interested in war against everybody. But we understand that Amalek wants to kill the Jewish people. And if we don't defend ourselves by going on a war against Amalek, they will eventually come and kill us. That's what's going to happen. So he understands this, Haman understands this, and he says, here's my chance. I'm the viceroy of the Persian Empire. This is my chance to destroy every single Jew. So this is what he does. Chodesh Nisan. This takes place now on the first month of the Jewish calendar, and the author of Megillat Esther goes out of his way to tell us that the first month is Chodesh Nisan, is the holiday of Nisan. It's the month of Nisan. We know that. We know that the first month is the month of Nisan. Why does it tell us who Chodesh Nisan? In a moment. Ooh, I like that, exactly. Bishnat Shechem Esel HaMelech Hashemah, I'll get to you in a moment, Mikey, because you're 100% right. Now, this person is obsessed in magic. Now, you always see people, the Babylonian Talmud says this, anti-Semites. I know they quote something completely out of context. They're complete boors, but they think they know something. They always think they know something. So this guy, he believes in magic. He believes in timing. Everything has to be the right timing. When does he throw the Gorah? When does he throw the lottery against the Jewish people? Chodesh Harishon, which is the Chodesh Nisan. It's a miracle that's a month that all the miracles happen to the Jewish people. Nisan Milashon Nisim. Again, to show us they know something very, very little and out of context about Judaism, but they obviously don't know anything. Because if he knew anything, he wouldn't do it on Chodesh Nisan, right? Furthermore, it was Bishnat Shetem Esel HaMelech Hashverosh. It was the 12th month. Now you're a person who believes in numerology. So what month are you choosing? The best month for the Jewish people. And what year of Melech Ahashverosh? The 12th year, which is 12 is the number of tribes of the Jewish people. So the guy doesn't even know what he's doing, right? The guy, he believes in magic, he believes in the occult, but it's like he's a bumbling buffoon in his in his attempt to do this. Okay, let's continue. So he does this magical rite. Hipil pur hu hagorah lifnei Haman. There was probably some sorcerer was brought before Haman to do this magical lottery. I'm going to tell you how the lottery was done in a moment. Miyom liyom. Number one, there was the lottery of the days. Number two, mechodesh lechodesh, it was the lottery of the months. Mechodesh lechodesh shelem asar uchodesh adar. So let me tell you how this worked. Very important. Where's Ahashverosh? He's not here. Is Ahashverosh ever told about the lottery? No. Because again, who believes in the occult? Who believes in magic? Haman, the Nazis, the Amalekites. Ahashverosh is Zoroastrianism. He doesn't care about this. He's not interested. Probably if he told them about this magical rite, he might have actually, rejected it. But let me tell you what was done. There was two lotteries. So first, he had one lottery, miyom leyom. So how many days are there in the year? The lunar year is 354 days. So he had 354 cards. And the cards had the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to number 354. He puts those cards in one lottery. And then there's another lottery with the 12 months. Month 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 months. Okay. So first, what they do is, the sorcerer, first of all, takes one of the 12 cards. He puts his hand inside, whatever comes out. Okay, at this point, there's nothing miraculous or magical. You say, okay, let's say that in this case, it was the 12th month. Nothing. Okay, but here's the magical part. Now he's going to stick his hand inside the other lottery. If, let's say the number 100 came out, so the 100th day of the year doesn't correspond to the 12th month of the year, because the 12th month of the year, Chodesh Adar, is at the very end of the year, and day 100 is like in the 4th month of the year, so it doesn't work. But what has to come out, somehow it's the second lottery, which is the lottery of the days, has to somehow correspond to the lottery of the months. You understand? So that's why it was done in two lotteries. So the first thing that came out was Chodesh Adar. Then from the numbers, he took the number. What came out was day 337. Day 337 exactly comes out on Yom Gimal Adar, and that was a sign that the lottery worked. Because you can have a situation, the lottery doesn't work, the gods are not with us, or whatever, but this was a sign. So it was great. He was happy. It's working. So miyom leyom umechodesh lechodesh shenim asar uchodesh adar. That's the way the lottery was done. The Chachamim say something nice. The Chachamim say that he took 3 die, right? The plural of dice, I think, is die, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So he threw these 3 die, and what came out on the top, was the numbers 1, 1, and 3. Now, if you look at the word agag in Hebrew, 1, 3, and 3, right? Agag is Aleph, Gimel, Gimel. Aleph in Hebrew is the number 1. Gimel is the number 3. Gimel is the number 3. Now this works. I actually checked it. When I read this midrash, years ago, and I actually took out 3 dice. I found, I think, in a Monopoly board or something. So I found these 3 dice, and I actually did it. So if the dice falls in the number 1, 1, and 3, what do you have on the bottom of the dice? Instead of the 1, you would have the 4. Instead of the 6. Am I missing this? 1, 6. Are you sure? I thought it's 4, 4, and 6. right? Agag. No, I'm sorry. Wait. Hold on. What would be on the other side of the 3? On the other side of the 3.
4.
Exactly, 4. Yeah. I'm sorry. So I misspoke. So it was 1, 3, and 3 for Agag, and on the bottom of the 1, you would have a 6. Correct?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, that's right. On the bottom of the, I didn't do it tonight, as you can tell. On the bottom of the 3, you would have a 4. On the bottom of the 3, you would have a 4. So you would have Dalet, Vav. What name is that? David. You see? So you have Agag on one side. Well, what do you have right under it? David, right? So that's what the Hachamim say. I thought it was an intriguing thing. Again, I don't play with, I never gambled in my life. Don't intend to gamble in my life. It's just not, so please don't get the wrong idea. But I'm telling this to you because the Hachamim mentioned it. I just thought it's the purpose of this midrash. It's to show the comedy of these magical rites. You can always take something and flip it the other side. So it says Agag on one side, it says David on the other side. So, okay. So meaning magic is nonsensical. And I think you all understand that, right? Vayomer Haman l'melech Ahashverosh. So Haman now, he's excited. He did this lotteries. The lotteries worked. He's going to Ahashverosh, and he tells him the following: Yeshno am echad. There is this singular people. Echad in the sense of unique. They're different, right? Yeshno am echad, right? Mefuzar. And these people, they're scattered all over the empire. I'm going to explain to you in a moment why that's important. So mefuzal literally means scattered. Forad. And this nation also, there's a lot of disunity within the people themselves. Now I want you to understand. Ahashverosh, he hated the Jews. He wasn't a fan of the Jewish people. He didn't need, encouragement, but he was also a politician. And he's thinking about his own political career and his monarchy. And part of the idea of Persia was that there is freedom in the empire, people are happy, and because people are happy, they will support the king. And part of the challenge of ruling a huge empire that's from India on one side all the way to Ethiopia on the other side is everybody has to love the king, and the king doesn't have to constantly send armies to different parts of the empire in order to suppress revolution. So part of his policy was make everybody happy, and like this, the empire will last. He doesn't like the idea of destroying people. If you destroy people, if you destroy a nation, it just doesn't look good, right? It doesn't sound good. Other nations might be afraid. Maybe some people like the Jewish people. Maybe there's going to be a whole city with just all Jews, and suddenly you have this destroyed city. The optics are important.
Maybe there'll be sanctions.
Maybe there'll be sanctions, yes, exactly. Maybe there'll be sanctions. Maybe people will revolt. Maybe the people themselves will revolt, and suddenly they'll feel uncomfortable, they'll feel oppressed, as they did in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. The Babylonians were very oppressive. So what happened? So that's why he comes in. He says, look, number one, these people are different than anybody. They're different. Everybody knows they're different. Nobody likes them too much. Number two, they're spread out. It's not like there's 10 million Jews in one city and you got to destroy the city, and now you have this empty city. The Hachamim say it's like a bald spot in the middle of the empire. That's the way they describe it. It's not that. And finally, meforad. There's the tremendous disunity among the Jews themselves. So because of this disunity, it's not like they're going to be able to defend themselves. They're always fighting. They're always arguing, right? So it's not such a difficult thing. So yeshno am echad mefuzar umforad ben ha'amim bechol medinot malchutecha. They are spread out in all of the cities of your empire. And here's the thing. Vedatehem shalot mikol am. They live their lives in accordance with their own peculiar laws, with their own rules. Okay, so they live their lives in accordance with their own rules, but worse, but they don't make and they don't fulfill the rules of the king. Meaning, it's one thing to say the Jews have their own sets of rules, but they respect the rules of the kingdom. They don't. They have their own sets of rules, and they don't respect the rules of the kingdom. That's a very destabilizing situation, because if you're going to allow these people who don't respect your laws to stay in the empire, well, what's going to happen then? Maybe other people won't respect your laws, and if other people won't respect your laws, you're now destabilizing, and you're creating a situation where you may lose control of the empire. It is essential that people follow the law. So Haman understood the psychology of the king very well. He's playing the right notes that Ahashverosh hears, and therefore it is not worth it to keep these people around. They're just, to quote a modern dictator whose name I won't mention, they're just taking up space. They're just taking up space, and at the end of the day, if you do an equation, means like this: if you look at the benefit of keeping them, right, whatever the benefit is, they pay X number of dollars of taxes, they have a certain number of jobs, productivity, and you look at the detriment. These people are a destabilizing force, right? They are, they don't follow the laws. They could potentially cause other people not to follow the laws. Why are you keeping them? Risk-benefit analysis, right? So a risk-benefit analysis says it doesn't make sense to keep them. And therefore, Your Majesty, if you agree with me, yikatev le'abedam, let there be written a law that says that they should be lost. Now you notice he doesn't tell Hashverosh what he's about to do. What does yikatev le'abedam means? They should be lost. Now he doesn't say that we're going to destroy them. He doesn't say the army of Ahasuerus would have to kill them, which never happens, by the way. He just says they should be lost. It's an ambiguous term, right? You're going to see later on when he writes the law, it's much worse than this, right? It's much worse. Let it be written that they should be lost. There's a cost to writing any legislation, that you need to get the scribes to write the Megillat containing the laws in the different languages. These Megillot, these scrolls, must be transported to the different parts of the empire. It costs money. I'm going to give you 10,000 talons of silver. I will give it to you now so that the king of Ahasuerus doesn't have to pay a single penny for this. I'll take care of it myself. Good deal. Now the king had on his hand a ring with the signet of the king on the ring. Now, this is the only signet, obviously, in the kingdom. But back then, when they used in Halab and Damascus, when they used to transport meat, kosher meat, there would be the hatima of the butcher on it, because otherwise they wouldn't know it's kosher. How would you know it's kosher? There was once Harav Eliyahu Atiyah, who's the son of the great Rav Mordechai Atiyah. He was from Mexico, then he went to Israel. He studied Yeshiva from Mikubalim. Now he's probably over 100 years old, at least, Harav Eliyahu Atiyah. I used to study with him in Israel, and so he tells me that once his grandfather was, I think maybe it was Halab, or traveling from one of the cities, and he had his seal. He was a shohet, and he had his seal with him. And in the middle of the night, somebody jumped him, one of the Arabs jumped him because they wanted to steal the seal. Because if you stole the seal from the shohet, it would be worth a huge amount of money, right? Because then you can have all this meat and seal it as kosher meat, and the Jews would pay a lot of money for it. He says, he said his grandfather was wrestling with this person till dawn, and then eventually the grandfather escaped with the seal. So the guy didn't get it. He would not give up the seal because chas v'shalom, it would have been giving non-kosher food to who knows how many Jews. Nevertheless, the seal of the king was the way that you knew that this law was actually authorized and publicized by Ahasuerus. But here's the thing. Once Ahasuerus seals a law with his ring, that law may never be revoked again. It's not like here in the U.S., where let's say the Congress can pass a law. Let's say they build, they wanted to pass this law, Build Back Better. Let's say they actually pass that law. Theoretically, I'm not saying it would happen, but theoretically, the next session of Congress would be able to vote the law and say, no, we don't want that law. It's theoretically possible. But here, with the seal of the king, once he seals it, Ahasuerus himself cannot change that law. So this law that he's about to send out, that's it. It's a law. It cannot be abrogated. Think of that for a second, okay? And you'll understand why the Jews were in such tremendous anguish. So he gives the seal to Haman. He says, I don't need your money. Thank you. I'll pay for it myself. Right? He himself, as I told you, he was not a lover of Jews. It didn't take a lot of persuading. As far as the people, you can do whatever you want to them. Again, Haman says, I want them to be lost. Ahasuerus says, you can do whatever you want to them. Okay? You see the way this is building up? And this is the law that comes out. On the 13th day of the day of Nisan, just so you get a little perspective, that day is the day before the night that we do Bedikat Hametz, right? Which is, of course, a little before Pesach, day and a half before Pesach. Vayikatev kechol asher zeva Haman el achash dar penei hamelech velabchot asher Midian v'sera am ba'am. The law was given to every local governor of every jurisdiction of every city in the kingdom of Hashverosh. They translated the law into every language. I'm just going quickly because I want to read the law. I see it's time. To utterly destroy. Laharog, to kill. To destroy, to kill. Ul abed, and to make laws. I interpret it to make laws as their memory should be lost. So it's not just to destroy their property, to plunder them, to kill them, but to make lost any sign that there were Jews. You see the idea? What la'abed means? La'ashmid, la'arog, la'abed, kol ha'yehudim, every single Jew. Mina'ar, young, zaken, elderly, taf, children, nashim, just like his ancestor in this desert. There was an obsession with killing the weak. He also was obsessed with killing the weak. Every one of them should be killed. And what would be the date? And this should take place on the 13th day of the 12th month, just like it showed in the lottery, right? As the lottery said, and here's the great thing. You get to keep whatever. If you kill a Jew, you get to keep his property. So there's a tremendous financial incentive to join this, frenzy of anti-Semitism, this barbaric, mob that's going to be there waiting to kill the Jewish people. It's all sanctioned by the government, and you get to keep their money. So that's the law. As I noted, the law cannot be revoked. It cannot be changed, right? So that's what happens, and that's why they declare a fast day. And the great miracle of Ahasuerus was that Ahasuerus was madly, the great miracle of the story was that Ahasuerus was madly in love with Esther, and they devised a plan, and the plan was the Jews have a right to defend themselves, and that's all we want. We just want the right to defend ourselves. No anti-Semite can defeat the Jewish people. We're stronger, we're smarter, we're better equipped. The state of Israel is a great example. Nobody can defeat the state of Israel because we have God on our side. And we have a great army which is blessed by God. The only reason there's wars in Israel is because Israel is not given the permission to, so to speak, defeat its enemies as it was. Today the situation is a little different. I think at least it's been a little better for the last decade or so, and inshallah it should stay like that. But the point is, the Jews, if given the permission to defend themselves, will always be successful in defending themselves, right? So we don't need a Hashverosh to annul the law. All we need to do is make another law that says Jews cannot defend themselves, and we totally defeated our enemies on Purim. And the best part of the story is, I love this part of the story. When we defeated the Amalekites, when we defeated the anti-Semites, we could have taken their property, right? They were going to kill us. What were they going to take? Ushlalam lavoz. The pasuk says, do us a favor. We don't need your dumb, pathetic house. We don't need your ugly little jalopy car. We don't need your business. We have our own money. We have our own property. Don't give us Mercedes buses. We're fine without them. And Jewish dignity. Jewish dignity, you don't always have to be with your hand out to the goyim, please help us. I heard Harav Eliyahu ben Chaim, and with this, he was giving a class in Queens. You may have heard of him. He's a tremendous Talmid Chacham. Tremendous Talmid Chacham. Harav Eliyahu ben Chaim, he was giving a class in Queens, and he said that, in his opinion, this is his opinion, the great avon of the Jewish people in Megillat Esther was that they went to the party of Ahasuerus. He said the food was kosher. What's wrong with going to the party of Ahasuerus? The food was kosher, everything was fine. He said, you don't need the goyim to give you food. You don't need the goyim to give you gifts. You don't always have to go with your hands out. Right? Have a little Jewish pride. Don't go to that party. So I thought it was a nice message. But at the end of at the state of Israel, for example, we love the state of Israel. I don't love that they want this reparation, give us this money. Come on. What are we? We're under? No, we're above all the nations, right? We don't mean that's my own humble opinion. That's what I think, but nevertheless, la Yehudim hayatal ora v'simcha v'sason mikal. Yes, sir.
I know we touched on in this class, but the backstory of